Welcome back to another full race. This is stage 2 of Get Rolling. I guess probably maybe 3 weeks ago is when this race happened, so just still trying to catch up. I've got a few full races left that I'd like to add some commentary to, but for now, catching up, and there'll be a few more sprint videos as well coming up. I think those are a little bit more fun for me to work on with commentary and editing, so hopefully I'll be all caught up by this week and we'll just be able to put out more current races and information. But thanks for joining once again, and here we are in the stage 2. This was 2 Village Loop. This is not my favorite course on McCurry, but I was actually really pleased with how this race went. The start wasn't terribly hard. It's always nice when it's right into a downhill. You kind of get yourself going and stay with the group, and you can get a nice draft to get warmed up in. And as you can see, the people who didn't catch on right at that very beginning are already 6 to 8 seconds behind, and they never catch back on because that downhill, if you're not in that group, if you're not stuck to that draft, you really have to work very hard to catch on, and the separation, the gap just didn't work out for them. And then we go into this dirt and we're all in one big pack, so the speed is just going to continue to be very high. So as you can see, like I just said, some of this is dirt. This is really the only section of dirt on this course. There might be a few sections later on, but not really worth going for a gravel bike with the length of this course being so much on the road. But just really having to stay in the draft basically is just harder here. So everyone has to work equally or more equally than on normal roads. But sticking with it, not going too bad. I'm definitely, you can see I'm having to do yellow and red just to stick with everyone. People are probably pushing on the front a little bit more to try and continue to separate people from this group, but so far so good. I've been doing a lot of these Zwift races. They occur multiple times throughout the day, and then the race course will last for a week, so you can do multiple times. You can just do once, and the next week, no, it'll be a different course. I really like how they're set up. They've got consistent power-ups, so they'll always tell you which ones will be available. Usually you can find races with people racing anywhere from 15 people in a race to over 100. So lots of options depending on the time zone that you choose and who signed up that day, what day of the week it is. This one was very ideal for me. I love groups of 20. I've just been finding more and more that if there's 20 people, that's perfect for me to be able to sit in, especially when it's majority guys racing. They just in general have higher watts for 20 minutes or longer than I do. So being able to sit in a draft of this size of a group is much better than 100 people. I have done it, and it's very tricky, but this is just a lot more comfortable for me. Trying to hang out kind of in this third row, so I'm not going to the front, I'm staying behind and getting some draft, and that's definitely helpful. Also still experimenting with steering at this point, trying to make sure that I always stay behind someone, and I'm still trying to figure this out this week in racing. But so far in this course, I've just been working on if I get spit to the side, I just kind of steer myself back in and maybe push someone off a wheel so that I can get a draft. Alright, we return to the road, and it's been pretty flat so far. This course is going to have one long climb that's not very steep, but it's just enough that you can really feel it. It's really hard to stay in draft, but we'll see that when it comes up. For now, I'm going ahead and using my draft boost just because it's flat, it's road. This is a good time to recover now that we've made it off of that gravel dirt section to to be able to just really enjoy this draft a little bit more, and in case there's any downhill, I'll be able to stick in a little bit more easily. Another good reason I already used my draft power up is because there's a segment coming up, the country sprint. You can see that popped up on the left side here. So I know I will get another power up. That's the nice thing about this race series, is they guarantee a specific power up, or 2 to 3 often is what they give out. So you know you'll for sure get a power up as you go through the banner. It may not be one you're hoping for specifically, but you will receive something. So it was good to go ahead and use that power up beforehand, and I'm probably hoping for a feather, so we'll see what happens. Alright, I have received an arrow boost. This is a power up that makes you more arrow for, I believe, 10 seconds. I'd have to look that up again, but it's a relatively short power up, but it's a very powerful power up. It's ideal for sprints. This is definitely my favorite one for sprints, because if you go to the front and hit the wind, you're not going to hit the wind as much as you normally would. Alright, as you can see in the top right, the number 3 just got yellow. It's about to get a little bit steeper. I wouldn't necessarily call this a climb, but it definitely goes up to one of the first of the 2 villages that we go through in this course. So it is a little bit of a climb up to it. It can split things, especially in races where there are segment points. So this race is just whoever finishes the race first wins. There's nothing in between. There's no points. There's no segments to boost your overall score. If we were doing this course with some segments, this is always a tricky section because we've just gone through a really short, punchy sprint, and then the speed will continue, and then we all hit this hill, and if you haven't made it on this hill, it can be really painful to try and stick with everything. If you've also given everything in the sprint, it's really painful to try and continue to go and not cover as much in the draft because of that slight bit of elevation. But it's relatively short, like I said. We are already up it. We just have to get through this gate. I think this is the last little bit of slight rise, and then we make it into the village where it will be once again flat. Alright, going ahead and dropping my arrow boost, mainly because I know it's flat up here in this village and it's be a good time to use it. If there's a slight uphill, it doesn't always benefit you super well, so I thought might as well do it now when we did this slight uphill. Looks like we were pushing just a little bit. I can see some good red trying to come up that little bump into the village, so probably a good time to try and pull my heart rate down. It's definitely below 170 now, so that's a good sign. One really fun thing I've enjoyed about doing these video playbacks and adding commentary on top is just being able to look around, because I'm not racing currently. So I can actually enjoy a little bit more of the course. I mean, I can always see a lot of things that I'm riding through, like these beautiful trees and the buildings. The Japanese style that they created in McCurry is really beautiful. So seeing just some of the fun things along the way is definitely enjoyable, and I feel like I'm getting even more out of Zwift just by looking back and seeing what was going on while I was racing. Looks like most of us are being very smart and knowing that there is a place to attack, and this is not it. We've really stayed as a bunch really nicely. I don't believe anyone has dropped off this group since the very beginning of the race, so this pack has stuck around basically the entire race so far. So we're really using each other's speed and strength to just kind of flow through the course, and we'll be coming up on that one climb in just a little bit, and that's where you'll see people start getting smart and making their attacks. We are exiting the village, and I know that the climb will be coming very soon. If you look at the little mini map on the top right corner, that right turn is what we're going to take, and it's going to pretty much immediately go right into the climb. One thing about racing is you always want to look up the course. Always look up the course and see what's coming. You need to see how many power-ups you'll be getting throughout, so that you know when you can deploy them best. You need to know where the climbs start. You need to know what kind of expectations you should have for the field and where moves may be made. And speaking of moves, here it goes. This is the main move of the race. This is someone I've raced against before. He goes by Headwound on Zwift. Headwound is a great racer. I believe he might be a B now. I saw him racing actually with my husband the other day in a B race, and he does amazing. He gets away here. I mean, he's doing over 7 watts per kilogram still, and he's already got a 6-second gap on us, which is just such a great move, because this climb is going to really drag on for quite a while, and the pack is just not going to have as much speed as they would on a flat, just because the draft is going to be more limited. But so far I'm sticking with the group okay. It's definitely a little bit more stringy. We are no longer in that nice compact group. And here's my moment of decision. I have to decide, am I gonna stick with them or not? So Paige does what Paige does best. She drops back, kind of takes a breath, and then stands up. You can see my numbers go red for just a second. And I stand up and I get some really good power, momentum going through, and then I catch on and try to hang on. My main thing is I have a lot of trouble doing maybe 110 to 130% FTP for a long amount of time. I'm just not great at doing that, even for a few minutes. That's really hard for me. But what I really like to do is do like 400% FTP and punch, and then back off a little bit. So that actually worked really well for me on this climb. I've done this climb a few times. I'm not a huge fan, but because I used my strength where I could kind of ease back and chill for just a little bit and recover, let my heart rate go down, and then stand back up and close it like I'm doing once again here, moving to the front as far as I can before I recover a little bit more. You can see just my numbers go up and down. I'm either in red or green, red or green. That really helps, and you'll see that I survive this climb all the way. Meanwhile, our friend Headwound has 20 seconds on this group. He really committed. That's really good commitment when you're trying to break away. And he knows that his strength is long-term power. Unlike me, he is not a sprinter. So he's making his move, and we'll see how it works for him in the end. This is another really tricky section of this climb. We went over a flat part, and you kind of think it's done, but it's not done. We have to wait until that T road shape comes up, and we're going to turn off of this climb. We're almost there, but this little section of 3 to 4% is still very painful. I think a lot of people have already given up, though, on chasing head wound during this climb, and they're going to wait till we get to the top to really push the speed. Alright, so here we are making the top. We're going to make this right turn, and we're going to be back on the road. I didn't think about that climb being all on dirt as well. I'm curious now if Headwound had a gravel bike because he knew what his plan was going to be. I don't think he did, but he did use that once again really well, knowing that we'd have even less draft with it being a dirt road instead of a asphalt road. Alright, so we're all together. I think we may have dropped one person, but we still have a group of, looks like maybe 12 people, 11 people chasing down Headwound. Headwound has 23 seconds on us and is still pushing really good numbers. Right at the top of the C category limit, but that's fine because he's probably been saving his energy and not going super high until that point, and then he just did all of his power then and keeping well within the C category limits at this point. Of course, now if he's a B, that's great, and hopefully he's being able to use his strengths really well there. Alright, so I'm hanging on for dear life, trying to practice my steering. I know that they're going to be pushing to try and bring back Headwound. I can see some 4 watts per kilogram on the front. I'm doing some red just to keep up with them. So hopefully I'll be able to settle my heart rate and just stick to these wheels the best I can. Alright, we have entered the second village of the 2-village loop. I really like all the lanterns in this one. Lots of really pretty things to see at the top of this hill. What's nice is I know we're going to go back down the hill. It's not going to be the exact same route. We don't circle and loop it. It's a different downhill. But there are some opportunities for super tucking, depending on if I'm in the draft. We'll just see how the downhill goes and how much speed this group will take. Alright, so I can definitely tell they're pushing the pace. I've got shuffled to the back, and I know this is not a great place to be because the downhill is coming soon, and I really want to be further up, so I move up a little bit, get myself nicely tucked into the front. Second place-ish spot, third place spot, so that I can get better draft and not get washed out to the outside. And I see that we're going to go through one more sprint, so I'm going to have a power-up for the finish. You can see someone's dropped their power-up because they also see they're going to get another power-up. It's definitely worth it to use it now because you'll know you'll get one. Alright, almost a mile and a half left in this race. We're about to start the downhill section. It's coming really close, so we will see how this finish goes. So I must be really struggling at this point. I've already dropped the power up I just got, which is an aero boost, which I've already said in this video is really good for sprint finishes. So I just wanted to go ahead and use it now and recover for the sprint. I think that was my plan. I thought it would be best to go ahead and just try and bring my heart rate back down, recover a little bit. I've had quite a bit of red and yellow, a little bit more than I would like. So went ahead and dropped it, struggling to stay in this group, using my steering a little wildly to stay in the pack, but I'm making it in. I'm staying with the group. A lot of them are really pushing 3.5 watts per kilogram quite a bit. Head wound still has 18 seconds at this point. We're still over a mile away, so we have time to catch. This rider, L. Delaney, has really been pushing the front. You can see he's been one of the ones really wanting to close this down. Alright, we have exited the second village and the downhill begins. You can see it's already at -3%. So I need to stick on, grab these wheels, and make sure that I am not going to lose any draft and have to work really hard to get back on. Under a mile to go now. It's downhill basically to the finish, through the finish. Someone has already dropped their arrow. I think this might be a little bit too early to drop the arrow. If you're using it specifically for the finish, I used mine earlier because it was flat and I really wanted to stick on until this downhill, but we'll see if that helped or not for this rider. I'm staying in really well. Sometimes in these downhills with racing with the guys, it's really hard for me to stick in. I am having to use over 200 watts to stick here, but it has become flat. So I'm wondering if I'm just feeling the flattening out for just a second, making sure I'm sticking in. Downhill again, -4%, coming into the finish. Head wound still has 10 seconds. We are cutting it very, very close. You can see him now on the mini map just in front of us, but we are really coming in with speed. Someone's starting to sprint. I think it's too early. I'm gonna sit in the draft. Now I'm ready to go. People are hitting orange numbers. I know it's time to go. I push, I come through, and I have really good speed, but here comes L. Delaney. He gets me right there at the end, and head wound still was off the front. I know it was kind of hard to see in that last little bit where everyone was. Head wound was actually still off the front and finished 5 seconds ahead of us. You can see in this finish picture here that he finishes 5 seconds ahead. He is able to maintain that gap after that climb, which is just very impressive. Very impressive that he was able to do that, and well within the watt per kilogram limit for C. He's pushing it. He's definitely making it really close with that 3.2 watts per kilogram, but he did it, and I'm very impressed. I was a little bummed that I didn't. I remember mentally just thinking, this is all I need to give, and that was not the right move for that final sprint. But I still got third place. My husband actually also got third place in the B race, so we both got third place podium, and that was really fun. But good lesson to know, just really go forward, don't look around while you're sprinting. Just go all out, because it's the end of the race. You know you're about to be able to stop and give it all that you can. Whether you're dying or not, just go for it in the finish, and you never know what happens. Thanks for watching again. I'm gonna have 3 more races, full races, to add commentary to, and then we'll be all caught up. Don't forget tomorrow's ZRL. I'll be recording that race. Lots of climbing. We'll see how that goes, but then hopefully the next race after that I will have some live stream available, getting some stuff going through Twitch, and we'll be all set with the live stream. Thanks for watching again, guys.